I don't remember when I fell asleep. I never do. The last thing I recall is the faint dripping of water on the walls, the flickering of a light bulb somewhere above me, and the echoes, always the echoes. At first, I thought they belonged to me, my own footsteps, my own breathing. But then I realized someone was behind me, always one step behind. And no matter how fast I tried to run, the dream would not let me go. The corridor stretched forever. The walls were damp, slick with some cold moisture that stained my hands when I brushed against them. The light bulbs above buzzed like dying insects. Their glow was weak pale yellow circles in an ocean of darkness. My footsteps echoed. But there was another rhythm, heavier, slower. One step behind me. I turned. No one. I ran. Still one step. Always one. I don't know how long I walked. Hours, days, until finally a door appeared. A door where there had been only wall. The door looked so out of place, like a mistake that reality had tried to correct, but failed. Its frame was crooked, the wood swollen from moisture, and yet it stood there with a kind of certainty, as if it had always been waiting for me. I froze in front of it, my hand trembling as I reached out, my skin prickling from the draft slipping through the cracks. I leaned closer, pressing my ear to the cold surface. There was no sound at first, just silence. Then, faintly, I thought I heard breathing slow, steady, like someone standing just on the other side. My pulse quickened, my body screaming at me to run, but my legs felt locked in place, as if the hallway itself wouldn't allow me to retreat. Behind me, the echo came again, that single, deliberate step. I spun around, but the corridor stretched empty, its lights buzzing and dimming in irregular pulses. My shadow stretched unnaturally long against the wall, twitching and shifting as though it didn't quite belong to me. I tried to walk away from the door, but the further I went, the closer it seemed to be. Every step carried me back toward it, until my hand was once again brushing against its peeling paint. I realized with a shiver that I could never escape it. The hallway wanted me to open it. My fingers wrapped around the rusted knob. It was ice cold, and the chill traveled up my arm, spreading across my chest like frost. I didn't want to turn it, but the weight of the unseen footsteps behind me pressed me forward. The knob clicked under my palm, and the door creaked open an inch at a time, resisting, as though it too feared what lay beyond. Darkness spilled out from the gap knot, the ordinary darkness of a room without light, but a thicker, heavier black, like tar, sliding through the crack. The air grew heavier, pressing against my lungs, making each breath harder than the last. Still, something urged me on, whispering faintly from the void beyond. When the door finally swung open, there was no room, no floor, no ceiling, just an endless drop into shifting shadows, swirling like storm clouds. For a moment, I thought I saw faces in them, distorted mouths opening wide in silent screams. My knees weakened, and I clutched the frame, afraid the pull of the void would drag me in. The breath I'd heard earlier returned, louder now, rushing out from the darkness in hot bursts that reeked of damp earth. It wasn't just one breath, it was many. A chorus of lungs pulling in air where no body stood. My skin crawled, every hair on my body standing on end as the whispers began again. They weren't words at first, only broken murmurs, like the sound of water dripping in reverse. But then I caught fragments my name, stretched and distorted, spoken in 100 different voices. They beckoned me, urged me, and with every repetition, my grip on the doorframe weakened. The echoing footsteps returned, closer now, so close that when I turned, I swore I saw the faint shape of something moving at the edge of the flickering light. Okay, my panic surged. I had only two choices: step into the impossible void ahead, face whatever was behind me. The wood looked rotten, its paint was peeling, curling away like dead skin, and from the cracks a draft slipped out, cold bitter, carrying the faint smell of dirt and something older. I knew this door didn't belong here. I knew opening it would mean something worse than staying in the hallway. But the air behind me grew heavy. The unseen footsteps came closer. So I opened it. What waited on the other side wasn't a room. It wasn't a place at all. It was somewhere impossible. The world beyond the threshold, bent in ways my eyes couldn't accept. Angles folded into themselves. Staircases twisted upward, only to vanish into blackness. And the floor seemed to ripple like water, though it felt solid beneath my feet. I took a step, hesitant, and the sound echoed for far too long, as though the space itself stretched the noise until it became something alien. The walls weren't walls at all. They pulsed faintly, alive, as if I stood inside the ribcage of some colossal creature. I could hear the faint thrum of a heartbeat far below, deep and slow, shaking through the soles of my feet. Every pulse made the air shift, heavy and humid, carrying with it that same smell of earth mixed with something sour, something decayed. Behind me, the door swung shut with a slam that rattled my bones. I spun around, rushing back, clawing at the handle. It was gone, not locked, not broken, gone. The wall where it had been was smooth, seamless, as if no door had ever existed there at all. I was trapped, swallowed whole by this impossible place. The silence pressed against me like a weight. Then, faintly, I heard it again, the footsteps, except this time they didn't come from behind me. They came from all directions at once, circling, pacing, as if something in the dark had multiplied, studying me, waiting for me to falter. I whispered to myself that it wasn't real, that I would wake up soon. But the air carried my words away, distorting them, throwing them back to me in a mocking tone that wasn't quite my own voice. I stopped breathing for a moment, my chest tight, afraid of hearing myself echo again. Shapes stirred in the shadows. At first, they looked like columns or crooked beams, but when I blinked, they leaned forward, closer, bending unnaturally, as though eager to study me. Their surfaces rippled like liquid, forming hints of faces before melting back into formless black. My legs shook, but I moved anyway, pressing forward into the twisting architecture. Every step made the ground sink slightly, as if the floor was only pretending to hold my weight. My footsteps sounded wrong, delayed, mismatched with my movements. Once or twice, I heard an extra step when I hadn't moved at all. The further I walked, the colder it became. Frost formed along the walls, or maybe veins of glass each, one catching the faint glow of unseen light. In their reflections, I didn't see myself. I saw figures standing just behind me, tall and thin, motionless, their hands almost brushing my shoulders. I turned quickly, but nothing was there, only more bending corridors, stretching into forever. My heartbeat pounded louder than the hidden thrum beneath my feet now, each beat hammering against my ribs, urging me to run. But where could I run to, when the place itself had no end? Then, at the farthest end of a corridor that should not have existed, I saw it, a figure, waiting, my figure, my own body, standing in the distance, head tilted just enough to show that it knew I was watching. Its lips began to move, soundless at first, for a faint whisper reached me, broken, garbled words that were almost mine, yet not quite. At the far end of the corridor, I saw myself, standing, waiting, its head tilted when I moved, its lips twisted when I breathed, and then it whispered. The words were almost familiar, like a lullaby I'd forgotten, but the sound was wrong, too sharp, too soft. It made my skin crawl. And then it walked toward me, step by step by step. Its movements didn't match mine. That was the first thing I noticed. When I lifted my arm, it twitched too late, as though it had to remember how to be me. When I tilted my head, it tilted too far, neck bending at an angle that should have snapped bone. The longer I looked, the less it seemed like a reflection at all. The whisper grew clearer, scraping at my ears like broken glass dragged across stone. It repeated fragments of my thoughts, the ones I hadn't even spoken aloud. My secrets, my fears, moments from my past I had buried so deep I'd nearly forgotten them. Hearing them spill from his lips left me dizzy, nauseous, exposed. I backed away, my shoes sliding across the damp floor. The corridor stretched behind me, endless, but I couldn't take my eyes off the thing ahead. Its face looked almost mine, but not enough. The skin around its eyes sagged too low, its smile was too wide, and its teeth gleamed wet and sharp in the flickering light. It began to move faster. What was once a slow, deliberate step turned into something jerky, desperate, as though it couldn't hold itself together while it rushed toward me. Its limbs snapped forward like broken marionette strings, and each time its foot hit the floor, the echo boomed louder than my own. The air between us grew heavy, thick, charged with a strange electricity. My skin tingled, my vision blurred, and every instinct in my body screamed to run. But when I turned, the hallway behind me bent, narrowing, twisting into shapes that made no sense. It was closing in, funneling me back toward the figure. I tried to scream, but the sound never left my throat. My voice was stolen, smothered before it even reached the air. Yet the other me, it laughed, a sound low and hollow, not mine at all, vibrating in my chest, as though it had burrowed inside me. Closer now, could see its eyes weren't eyes at all. They were pits, empty sockets that somehow glowed faintly from within, as though lit by embers. And in those embers, I saw things, faces I recognized, faces of the dead, faces of strangers I would one day meet. I stumbled, falling hard onto the slick floor. The shock of cold concrete bit into my palms, grounding me for just a moment. I scrambled backward, but the figure mirrored me, crouching low, crawling now, its fingers splayed wide against the ground, nails dragging and sparking against the surface. And then it stopped, inches away, its face hung above mine. The flickering light buzzed once more before dying completely, plunging everything into suffocating darkness. I couldn't see it anymore, but I could feel it, breathing, waiting, smiling. I stumbled backward into a house, my house, or what looked like it. The living room twisted into a hallway. The hallway stretched into the ceiling. The stairs looped back into themselves, leading me endlessly upward until I was back where I started. Doors opened to nowhere, windows framed only black voids. The walls breathed, the floor pulsed. The house was alive, and it did not want me to leave. The air inside was heavier than outside, almost sticky against my skin, filled with the scent of wood, rot, and damp carpet. Every breath I took felt borrowed, as though the house itself allowed me to inhale only because it hadn't yet decided what to do with me. The familiar outlines of furniture stood in strange places, the sofa pressed against the ceiling, the dining table leaning sideways as though gravity had chosen a different direction. I tried to call out, hoping maybe someone, anyone, would answer, but my voice vanished into the walls. The sound didn't echo. It didn't even fade. It simply stopped, cut off mid-breath, absorbed, like the house was hungry for it. My throat burned from the silence, as though I hadn't spoken at all. The stairs looked normal from the bottom, but with each step I took, the angle shifted. They curved too sharply, folding back, until I realized I wasn't climbing anymore, I was descending. Though my body swore, I was still going up. My legs ached, my chest tightened, and when I looked behind me, the bottom was still impossibly far away. Doors appeared where there had been none, their knobs rattling as if something waited behind each one, impatient. I tried the nearest, but it led to another hallway, thinner, darker, the wallpaper peeling like old skin. Another door led me to a bathroom, but the mirror didn't show my reflection. It showed the hallway behind me, stretching farther than it should, with a figure at the end that I prayed was just a trick of my eyes. The windows were worse. At first, I thought I saw the night outside, trees swaying in the dark. But when I pressed closer, the glass rippled like water, and the world beyond twisted into something unrecognizably endless expanse of faces, all pressed against the surface, their mouths moving in perfect silence. I stared, not with eyes, but with hollow sockets that seemed to widen the longer I watched. The walls creaked, expanding and contracting in slow waves. I pressed my palm against one and felt it throb beneath my touch, like pressing against a beating heart. It was warm, too warm. A low vibration hummed beneath it, traveling up my arm into my chest until my own heartbeat tried to match the rhythm. The lights flickered, though I hadn't seen any bulbs. It was more like the house itself exhaled a faint glow that pulsed in time with its breathing. In those moments of light, I saw shapes dart across the hallways, too quick to focus on, too tall to belong in a human body. Each time the glow returned, they were closer, retreating just before my eyes could settle on them. I turned a corner and found myself back at the front door. Relief nearly broke me, but when I reached for the handle, it dissolved under my hand like wet paper, crumbling into dust. The doorway sealed itself, wood and plaster knitting together in an instant, leaving me staring at a blank wall. Panic surged through me. I slammed my fists against the walls, the doors, even the floorboards. But all they did was shiver, like a living thing pretending to be hurt. A low groan rattled through the entire structure, as though the house was laughing at me, amused by my desperation. Then came the sound, not the footsteps anymore, but a steady dragging, like fingernails trailing against wood. It circled me, weaving through the walls, scratching from room to room, never stopping. The sound grew louder until I realized it wasn't circling me at all. It was closing in. Then came the trees, a forest bathed in silver moonlight. The ground was frozen beneath my feet, but the shadows didn't belong to the trees. They moved, they stretched, they whispered. The voices were soft at first, then sharper. They called my name, hundreds of voices, until the forest screamed it. I ran, but the shadows followed. The cold air stung my lungs as I stumbled between the trees. The ground crunched beneath my feet, but the sound was drowned out by the whispers. Dozens of them weaving through the branches, circling me like a chant that grew louder with every step I took. Each tree seemed older than time itself, their barks split and gnarled like twisted mouths, frozen in mid-scream. When the wind shifted, I realized it wasn't wind at all. The branches didn't sway. The leaves didn't rustle. The sound was coming from the shadows, curling around the trunks like smoke, stretching across the ground until they almost touched my legs. Every time I moved, they recoiled just slightly, as though waiting for the right moment to strike. I tried to focus on one shadow, to see if it belonged to anything real, but the more I stared, the less shape it had, bent in ways no body should, stretching thin, then swelling wide, slipping over roots and rocks like liquid. My eyes burned from following them, but if I blinked for even a second, they reappeared closer. My name echoed again, sharper now, splintered between 1,000 voices that overlapped, some soft and childlike, others deep and cracked, all carrying a terrible urgency. They weren't calling me toward them. They were calling me deeper into the forest. The thought chilled me something, wanting me to keep walking. The trees began to change as I moved further in. Their bark peeled away to reveal pale wood that looked disturbingly like bone. Some trunks bent down low, curling like spines, while others rose impossibly tall, vanishing into the moonlight above. No matter how far I went, the forest never thinned. It only thickened, choking off any sense of direction. I thought I saw a clearing ahead, a faint glow spilling through the branches. Relief surged through me, and I pushed forward, only to find the same trees repeating in front of me, over and over, as if the forest was folding space in on itself. My own footprints circled back, half-earsed by the shadows that slid across them. Then something brushed my shoulder, hard, thundering, and spun around. Nothing, only the black between the trunks. But my skin burned where I'd been touched, like a brand seared into my flesh. When I lifted my sleeve, there was no mark, just a lingering cold that sank deep into the bone. The whispers swelled again, no longer scattered, but unified, all voices speaking at once in a single, terrible sound. It wasn't my name anymore. It was laughter, high-pitched and broken, echoing through the trees until it felt like the whole forest was alive, mocking me. I ran blindly, not caring where the path led. The ground shifted under me, sometimes solid, sometimes soft like mud, sometimes brittle as though I ran over glass. My chest burned, my breath came ragged, but no matter how fast I moved, the shadows slipped alongside me with ease, gliding effortlessly through the woods. And then, ahead, I saw something that made me stop cold. Between the trees, standing motionless in the silver light, was a figure. Tall, thin, draped in shadow, its head cocked slightly, as though listening. I wanted to believe it was just another tree, just another trick of the dark. But when it moved, when its arm lifted slowly, deliberately, its two-point at mine knew the forest had been leading me to this. I collapsed onto cracked stone. A station, empty, silent. The lamps above flickered, glowing, then dying, glowing, then dying. And then a train pulled in. Its wheels screeched against the tracks. Its doors opened, but there were no passengers. It's only whispers. They spilled out like smoke. They wrapped around me, pressing against my ears, inviting me, commanding me to step inside. The platform stretched wider than it should have, vanishing into fog at both ends. The stone beneath my hands was slick with condensation, cold enough to burn. I tried to steady myself, but every time I looked down, cracks in the floor seemed deeper, as though they led into an endless drop instead of earth. The train loomed in front of me, its windows black, its metal skin rusted, yet pulsing faintly with heat. Steam hissed from its sides, curling around my ankles like searching fingers. Every instinct told me not to go near it, yet my feet slid forward, drawn by something I couldn't name. The doors yawned open, their hinges screaming, but inside, there was nothing. No seats, no floor I could trust. Just a cavernous dark that swallowed the flickering light from the lamps. The whispers poured from that darkness, rushing against my face, filling my ears, so loud that my own thoughts drowned beneath them. I stepped back, clutching my ears, but the voices weren't outside anymore. They had crawled in. I could feel them weaving through my head, tugging at my memories, pulling old moments forward like pages torn from a book. Childhood laughter twisted into screams, familiar voices bent into grotesque echoes of themselves. Something shifted inside the train. I couldn't see it, but I felt the weight of its presence, pressing against me like a storm before thunder. The shadows inside stirred, stretching outward, reaching toward the doorway. Every pulse of the lamps above revealed the faintest outline, long, bent shapes, swaying as though they hung from invisible strings. The platform trembled beneath my feet, the stone groaning as though it too wanted me aboard. My heart raced, pounding louder than the hiss of the train, but the more I fought to stay still, the stronger the pull became. It wasn't curiosity, it was compulsion, like I had always been meant to step inside. I tried to call out, hoping my voice would break whatever force was dragging me, but all that came out was a choked gasp. The sound echoed strangely, not across the platform, but inside the train. My own voice answered back, repeating the same broken breath, until it grew distorted, deepened, and became something that wasn't me. The lamps flickered faster, buzzing violently, shadows jerking across the walls. For a split second, I saw faces pressed against the windows of the train, distorted, pale, their mouths wide, but soundless. K vanished as quickly as they appeared, leaving nothing but black glass behind. I forced myself backward, inch by inch, though every step felt like wading through thick water. The whispers rose higher, shrieking now, desperate, commanding, each one pulling at me like hooks in my skin. The train's doors began to close slowly, grinding metal against metal, but I knew the sound wasn't a reprieve. It was a warning. Just before the doors sealed, something burst from the dark within. A pale hand slammed against the frame, long fingers scraping grooves into the metal. Another hand followed, then the faint outline of a head pushing forward. My breath froze in my chest. The train wasn't empty at all. It had been waiting. The train ended in a basement. The walls pressed in close. The air was heavy, and in the corner, something breathed. I stepped forward. No eyes, no mouth, no face. Just smooth, pale skin where a face should be, and yet I could feel its gaze. I could hear its hunger. It reached for me. Its breath touched my skin. Its hand hovered inches away, and thin steps creaked under its weight, though I couldn't see its feet. Each sound echoed too long, as if the basement stretched far beyond its walls. The air thickened, humid and sour, filling my throat with the taste of rust and dust. I pressed my back against the cold stone, trying to blend into the wall, but the darkness seemed to push me forward, refusing to let me hide. Its faceless head tilted, listening. The absence of eyes made it worse. Whatever it was, it didn't need them. It knew exactly where I stood. The pale skin shifted faintly, almost as if something writhed beneath it, pressing upward, trying to break free. I took a step back and nearly slipped on the damp floor. Water pooled in uneven patches, and each ripple carried the reflection of its body, warped and broken, as though the basement itself couldn't bear to hold its shape. Kai looked down at the ripples and realized they weren't matching its movements. They were moving before it did, predicting its steps. Low sound filled the air. Not quite a growl, not quite a breath, something in between. The vibration of it rattled in my chest, crawling along my bones. I felt as though my heartbeat was being forced to sync with the sound, each thud weaker than the last. It moved closer, slow and deliberate, until the space between us narrowed to almost nothing. I could feel the heat radiating from its body, though the basement around us was freezing. The scent of damp earth and rot clung to it, sinking into my skin until I swore I carried it inside me. My vision blurred, the corners of the room bleeding into shadow. The figure's hand hovered inches from my face now, trembling, not from weakness, but from restraint. It wanted to touch me, and some terrible part of me wanted to let it. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw shapes forming where its face should have been eyes, mouths, all pressing against the smooth flesh, trying to force their way through. They flickered and vanished, replaced again by the blank void of skin. The impression remained, though, dozens of souls trapped inside, pressing for release. I tried to scream, to force sound from my lungs, but the basement swallowed my voice whole. Instead, the silence deepened, pressing against my ears until all I could hear was the ragged rhythm of its breathing, and my own frantic heart pounding back at it. It leaned closer, skin where its mouth should have been parted, just slightly, peeling like wet paper, and a thin exhale brushed against my cheek. It was colder than ice, colder than death itself, and yet it burned. The whisper that followed wasn't sounded, was thought, carved directly into my skull. I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was on the floor, crawling, scraping my hands raw against the stone as I dragged myself away. The figure didn't follow quickly. It didn't need to. Its head tilted again, and I knew without question that it was smiling. I gasped, awake, in my bed. The nightmare was over, or at least I thought it was, because on my floor, muddy footprints trailed across the room. My lamp flickered once, then twice, and from the corner of the dark, I heard it, a whisper. The same whisper I had heard in the dream, the same whisper that followed me through the forest, the station, the endless hallway. My neighbor died last week, but every night I still hear him. The nightmare didn't end when I woke up. It followed me home.